Hello, and welcome back to the Believe in Lions podcast. That's BLEAV right here on the Believe Network. I'm your host, as always, Jack Kavanaugh, and I am joined, as always, by the legend, Glover Quinn. Of course, we are a little bit disappointed in how things went about the fact that the Lions are not representing the NFC in the Super Bowl, but we are here to talk about it. Glover was at the game yesterday, so I introduce you to the one, the only, the all pro, the Lions legend, Glover Quinn.
What's up, guys? What's up, guys? Yes, you said a little deflated, but we're okay.
Of course. Of course.
We're okay. The game was great, man. It was fun. It was a great environment. Although I do feel like Lions fans are a lot. It would have been really crazy environment if that would have been in Ford Field. Um, but it was cool, man. It was a good time from everything, man. The hospitality, the treatment, the vibe, the environment. You know, and I don't know, man. It's a lot of things that happens behind the scenes that I'll be having a lot to say about, and I'm pretty outspoken. So you guys know that, especially if you followed me throughout my career. Um, but I like to speak to the proper channels and say things the right way. So, but it was a great time, man. It was fun to be there, be in the stands, and be a fan. I went out there with my best friend from back at home, and it was a great time. So, hate that the Lions didn't pull it out. Sure, we'll get to talking about the game, but it was a good time.
Glad it was. And I was glad to see so many Lions legends were in attendance. You were there with Tully, Stephen Tully. You were there with, not Glover Quinn, your Glover Quinn. You were there with Golden Tate. You were there with Barry Sanders. And then the celebrities were out in attendance, Keegan Michael Key as well, and some other faces there. So, it was nice to see the Lions at least well represented, even though it was on the road.
Yeah, it was. It was nice. Um, you know, I think man Tully been there every game, and that started, when we came back for homecoming in October. We had a good time, and when they made the playoffs, we kind of hit each other and was like, hey, I'm there. And so we linked at the first game, and when they won, it was like, bro, I'm back next week. All right, let's do it. So he's back next week, and then I'm in the suite, and I had already had my flights booked for San Francisco. I booked those flights after we beat the Rams, but we're in the suite for the Tampa game, and it's close to halftime. And Tutty like, hey man, I think I'm finna go and book my flights. You better go and get them, bro. So Tully in the during the game booked his flight. So we'll worry about trying to figure out tickets and hotel and all that stuff later. Let's go and get these flights booked. So we got the flights, and then you know had to go through Ticketmaster and all that stuff and find tickets, but it worked out.
Happy it worked out. Happy you were in attendance. Wish they could have brought it home in front of you. Wish that they could have got the W in front of you. But that first half, my goodness, they looked like the best team in the NFL for the first half. And then the third quarter reared its ugly head as it has all season long.
Yeah, it did. They looked like a Super Bowl championship team that first half. They didn't play scared. They looked like they had it on their mind. They were executing at a high level. They were playing with great energy, great execution. Um, and you know, it's a couple of things that happened that you just can't have happen. And then the second half, it just kind of snowballed real quick. And that first 4th and 2 that they didn't get, there's a big momentum killer for the Lions. but it's a huge momentum for those guys. And I think they had already scored a touchdown coming out of the half. Then they had the fourth down. And so the momentum in the building was changing drastically. You could feel it. And so that would be, from a coaching standpoint, that would be my only critique at that point. I can understand going forward the first 4th and 2. I can understand that one, just because you're trying to possibly put more pressure on their necks. The last one, I probably would have kicked it because we were losing. But the more I think about it, when you go into halftime 24-7, right? When it's 24-7?
24-7. Yep, up 17.
At this point, to me, it's really about adding to the lead every single time. Even if I get 3 field goals, that's 9 extra points. That put me at 33, right? But it kills the momentum. When we look at it, 2 fourth down stops and 1 turnover, that's almost like 3 turnovers.
Yep.
Right? It's almost like 3 turnovers. It's hard to win a game when you get 3 turnovers, right? So that would be my only thing. In the second half, up 24-7, hey man, I don't have to have big steel gonads right now. I'm just trying to pad the score. Let's just keep adding points to the board. Let's keep taking the momentum off their side. Let's keep making them kick return because we're kicking the ball off. Let's keep making them go 80 yards or whatever. Like, let's keep just doing that. Right? Let's keep doing that and not, but it happened. It happened fast, man. It happened fast. Real fast.
Yeah, it was just such a series of unfortunate events. You go into half, you're up 24-7, and then they go and kick the field goal. So you're still up 2 scores. You're still up 14 points. You go for it on 4th and 2 instead of kicking the field goal. That would have put you back up 3 scores. It would have preserved your lead the exact same way it was before. And conversely, it was the right play call. It just, the drop, turnover on downs. And then Brandon Ayuk has that insane catch. It should have been an interception off the face mask of Kindle Vildor. Then you get that swing, score a touchdown right after that. Then immediately after, you get a fumble. So instead of being up 3, you go, that's a 10-point swing with just a touchdown. And then it's another 7-point swing after the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble. That's a 17-point swing in basically 3 plays. There was a couple more on the Brandon Ayuk drive, but basically 3 plays, 17-point swing.
And outside of just the points, it's the momentum, it's the feeling, it's your guys. It's, hey man, we've never been here before. We're trying to get to the Super Bowl. Oh snap, they coming back. Like, oh, we gotta stop. Somebody gotta stop this, right? And you look up, and I get it, and I'm not here to talk about anybody. I'm a player supporter. I just call things how I see it, right? You look back at the season and some of the things that came up, and I'm not saying that it didn't happen, it should have happened. I'm not saying that. But we scored 24 points in the first half. We scored 3 in the second in what mattered. I know we got a late touchdown there at the end, right? But I think we had 3, didn't we?
Yeah.
We had 3. It was 24. Yeah, we had 3. No, we had 24. We ended up with 31, did it? Was it 30?
Yeah, it was 31. So they kicked
So we only got the only points we had in the second half was the touchdown at the end, right?
You're right. Yeah, it was 0.
So we went the whole second half and we didn't put anything on the board. And I get it. We went for it twice on 4th down. But at some point, we talked about those offensive lulls. At some point, somebody got to fire them up to where we go and put a drive together. Hey, let's go. Let's not get in a fourth down situation. Let's go put a drive together. Let's catch the ball. Let's not make the moment bigger than what it needs to be. We all understand it's a big moment, but it's going to be bigger if we just go out and execute and make our plays. But those were things that came up during the season. And I was like, we just can't have those offensive lulls, these games. And during the season, there was games where we just didn't play well. Somebody got to say something, right? And I'm not on the sideline, so I don't know if that happened or not. But I just know we didn't score any points until we were down by 10 with 3 minutes to go in the game. At that point, it's kind of too late. We done missed the whole second half, you know. So that's tough. That's tough.
And at one point, I don't know if it was the entire third quarter, but for at least the first 3 drives of the first quarter, 0 targets to Amon-Ra St. Brown. 0 targets to Amon-Ra St. Brown for most of the third quarter, if not the entire third quarter. And he had 60 yards on 4 grabs in the
I was
first
about to
half.
say, I felt like in the first half, every time we thrown the ball, he was getting 15 yards. That's
Yeah.
what it felt like. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what we did offensively the second half. If I'm just being honest with you, I'm literally trying to think of plays that were made in the second half. None's really coming to my mind. I could be wrong, but I mean, like I said, we got 2 fourth down conversion situations, so that means that we're not converting on third down. We fumble the ball, and I get it. Good handoff, bad handoff. I don't really know, but at the end of the day, the first 2 playoff games they've played pretty clean. I don't think they had really any turnovers, if anything. Maybe one, if I could just 2 fourth down, and not conversions and a fumble. That's almost like 3 turnovers. That's gonna be tough to beat you to go to the Super Bowl.
It is. It is. And clearly, evidently, that's how it worked out. You can't turn the ball over that many times and pull out a victory. The 49ers turn it over once. Brock Purdy has that interception. Nice play by Malcolm Rodriguez. He was filling in for Derek Barnes, who went down earlier in the game. Hope for a speedy recovery. I haven't heard an update on what his injury was, but we hope for a speedy recovery. But it just now you head into the offseason, it's as we've come to realize, and as everyone knows, you don't get anything for making the NFC championship. You don't get anything for making the AFC championship. You just get disappointed.
Right. And I'm gonna say something just because I like to say it, and I wish, you know, I don't really like, you know, tension or especially on the team. Like it shouldn't be any of that. And a couple weeks ago, I had the situation with CJ Gardner Johnson, and I felt like that really wasn't the time to hey man, y'all need to go win the Super Bowl. I'm not trying to be any source of distraction or anything like that. I just said what I said about the video. However it went, that's how it went, right? So I don't want to ever lose the right to say what I feel like needs to be said. And that was one of the things that I said throughout the week. And I'm not just pointing out CJ Gardner Johnson, but I was basically saying in those moments, and I know we eventually end up scoring, but we can't get too caught up in all the extracurricular activities and forget that we're just trying to win the game. That's all that matters. We're just trying to win the game. Getting a halfway block or cheap, like all that does for CJ, honestly, it's a bad penalty. You get a fine from the NFL. So you almost played the championship game for free once they take the fine out. Right. And it just don't look good. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I'm not trying to just point out CJ because I think we had another situation where it could have been that way, right? It's just a penalty that we don't need to have. When you're going on the road for the NFC championship, you got to almost play a flawless game. And like I said, I know we end up scoring. Jameer, I think that's the drive that Jameer Gibbs got the touchdown on. But you just make it harder for yourself. You just make it harder, and you just don't want to do that. You just want to be focused on the game. And like I said, I hate that it all happened like that because it just kind of I didn't like even when I would be there pregame and stuff, it just was, just felt like, just wasn't right. But it is what it is. But when you play in the championship games, you got to play clean. You got to play clean, and you can't beat yourself. And if we look back at that game, they did a lot of things to hurt themselves, right? Like you talk about the Vildor play. That's a tough catch to make. I get it, and it's very unfortunate that it bounces off your face mask. But to go to the NFC Championship game, you got to make those plays. You know what I'm saying? Like we can all sit here and say that's unfortunate, true. But to go to and win a championship, you got to make those plays, right? And that's a part of being young, being on this stage maybe for the first time, and things happen. But I just got to give it up. I mean, I felt like Brock Purdy really, really hurt us. I think throughout the whole year, we've always talked about those mobile quarterbacks that you're not really expecting them or respecting them as a runner. They just can move around in the pocket and stay alive. Brock Purdy made some big plays on his feet. And I think that's probably because they didn't go into the game with the game plan if we got to stop Brock Purdy from running. But he showed clearly last night that he can. And he dropped his you-know-whats and made some big-time runs at big-time situations. And I thought he hurt us probably almost more than anybody else. Brock Purdy running.
Yeah, and it wasn't even just the running either. The running was a large part of it, but it was also escaping and moving around in the pocket. Those there were a couple throws to the two to Kyle Juszczyk, which is a fullback, getting that open and making those plays downfield. And the other one was cross the body, you roll out, you throw across your body, and Jawan Jennings, the one-handed catch up in the air. Those don't happen if Brock Purdy doesn't escape or move around in the pocket. So it's just, yeah, you just have to give credit. It's disappointing, but you just have to admire it. And so where do you go from here as a former player? Where do you go from here? The season's over. You're going to have a new team next year. It's going to be a lot of the same guys, but it is a new team. So what's the outlook right now?
Well, I was thinking about that, right? And Dan Campbell, it came out last night that he told the guys, this may have been our only shot, right? That is a true statement. May have been. Took us 30 years to get to this point, right? But I hope they got the mentality of why not become the beast of the North, right? Aaron Rodgers ruled the division for a long time, right? And every year he was in the playoffs, fighting for that one seed almost every year, winning one playoff game, and you're right back in the NFC Championship every year, right? Why they can't beat the Lions right now? Patrick Mahomes has been 6-7 years in a row. Why we can't go 6-7 years in a row? Why we can't build that culture? Because once you create the culture, now in free agency, players probably want to come. So it's a little easier to get better players in free agency, right? It's going to be very difficult for New England to get, you see what I'm saying? When they were going to Super Bowls, it's a little easier to get some of those guys because they want to shine at the Super Bowl. Now, go somewhere else, right? Why the Lions can't be that place that they want to go, right? That they want to go to because of how the organization is ran, the culture that's there, the coaching, the players, everything is. Hey man, we want to come here, right? Will you make it back to the NFC Championship game next year? I don't know. A lot has to happen, right? It takes a lot. Got to stay healthy. You got to win games, right? You got to win tough games. It's hard to get back. I get it. This may have been your only shot. But San Francisco has been several times in the last few years. Kansas City goes every year, right? We can run it back. The guys just have to lock in and run it back. Coaching staff got to lock in and run it back. Brad Holmes, they got to lock in and run it back. Got to have a good free agency. Got to have a good draft. Got to put a team together. Those four guys that you drafted top of the draft last year, Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, Jameer Gibbs, Sam Laporta, you got to go have that draft again. You're not going to have those high draft picks this time. You're going to have to make something happen. That's a part of it. But we've seen organizations do it year after year after year after year after year. Now, a lot of it starts with the quarterback. If we feel like Jared Goff is that guy, which I feel like he is, he's played well, done a great job. You should be able to run it back. But I will say, when we talk about this all the time, you look at that game, the personalities, in my opinion, they show up a little bit. Like, when you think about it, Brock Purdy went out and he freaking went to make it happen, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still waiting for the Jared Goff moment. Like, where's that moment, Jared? Like, you've been going to San Francisco all these years because you was in the division. Where's that moment in the NFC title game where we're talking about Jared freaking Goff did not allow the Lions to lose? You had a 24-7 lead and you did not allow the Lions to lose. Like, think about that. Matt Ryan's career won't ever be looked at as what it possibly could have been. You had a 28-3 lead over Tom in the Super Bowl, and you let them lose. You're never going to be looked at amongst the greats like that. You're not. Jared, how did we let us, like, how? But when you look at Brock, like, Brock was fired up in the second half. Like, he was, like, going to get it, man. And we didn't have a Jared Goff moment in the second half, right? So that goes into everything. It's okay to be even keel and this, like, you need those things, but you gotta have the ability to feel the moment and know I gotta say something right now. I gotta do something right now. Right? They need me. I'm the guy. I cannot let us go down. I can't stay just here because the moment is bigger. I got to do more in this moment. That don't take away from the fact that I'm an even keel guy. But the moment is big right now. And emotionally, physically, intellectually, everything, I'm not gonna let us lose. Get on my freaking back. But I'm sorry.
No need to apologize at all. I completely get where you're coming from. I completely get what you're saying. Is we've talked about this in the past. We talked about this during the slump. Is there's all types of leadership. You don't have to be the rah guy. It would be nice to see that sometimes, but you can also let your play speak for you. And Jared Goff did have a good game. He wasn't the reason they lost, but
Right.
there weren't those moments. Like you said, there weren't those, okay, I'm leading with action.
Right.
And yeah,
And at the end of the day, like you look at the Ravens game. Lamar Jackson couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes. He didn't play defense. Lamar Jackson didn't fumble the ball reaching for the end zone. Yeah, he did have a fumble and he had an interception. I understand all that. But Lamar Jackson is going to take the brunt of that loss. His legs, like all that stuff. He's going to be the one. We're going to
yeah,
give Patrick Mahomes the credit. Patrick Mahomes didn't shut down Lamar Jackson. But what Patrick Mahomes do, he puts the pressure on everybody to be great on his team and even the other team. He makes coaches make decisions that against normal people, they probably wouldn't make it. But against Mahomes, we got to make it. Because if we give him a chance, ah, and you could just see how they came out. They had it on their mind. They had it on their mind. They were up for the challenge. And you got to have that. You got to have that. So I'm not expecting Jared to get out of character, but from the very beginning, he got to show, like they got to show we got it on our mind and we ain't giving it up. Period. We come out that second half, hey, we got to go back down and score. We are not allowing them to come back. And they did. So it'd be something good for them to think about in the offseason, right? It'd be something good for them to think about in the offseason. That's how you get better, right? And my thoughts were on the Dan Campbell situation, right? I don't feel like you made it to this point by going for it on fourth down. That is the result of what you've done. You made it here by being in tune with your team, having a good feel for the game and how the game was going, and making good, smart decisions, right? Like, as a defensive back, a lot of times they say, oh, you gambled on a play. I don't gamble. I just take highly educated chances, right? Gambling is not really having a clue and you just going to do something because you think, oh, I think they're going to throw it over here. What made you think they're going to throw it over there? Right? But when you can make a highly educated decision and you see something and you got evidence that this is what happens when you see this and you go then, it may look like you gambled on the play, but I really didn't gamble. I knew exactly what I was doing. So you didn't make it here by gambling on those plays. You felt the team, the moment, and a lot of times it worked out. Sometimes it didn't. So in that game last night, like I said, I can understand the first time. Maybe. The second time with 6 minutes left or somewhere in that ball field or whatever. 49ers got all the momentum. My team is kind of reeling. Like I said, we hadn't scored. We hadn't scored the whole second half. I feel like I got to kick the field goal and take the points. For one, it gives us some points. For two, it kills the momentum from the other team, right? And I'm okay with that. Because we were on probably the 40-something yard line, 30. I can't remember exactly where we were. It wasn't like we were inside the 5. So even if they would have picked up the first down, we'd have needed 2 or 3 more first downs to score, if I remember correctly. So you probably would have ended up possibly kicking another field goal anyway. Losing by 3, I got to kick that field goal. Because even if they go down and score, all right, it's a 7-point game. I can go down and score. Not kicking the field goal, not getting it. Now they go down and score. Now you're down 10, and it's almost ball game. But, everything is always hindsight, right? It's always hindsight. We always got the right answer, when we can sit back and see what happened. So I'm not faulting Dan. I like Dan. I feel like he's done a phenomenal job. I'm not faulting him. He had his inkling and he went with it. That's what he did. I'm just I don't know what you call it, an analyst, a podcaster, a fan that just giving my opinion on it. But kudos to the Lions, man. They did a great job. Hell of a season. And hey, man, I remember when J.J. Watt got drafted when I was in Houston. And J.J. Watt's first year, he had a terrific year, right? So I remember going to training camp the next year. This would have been my 4th year in the league. This would have been J.J. Watt's 2nd year. And when training camp started, I told JJ, I said, the hardest thing to do in the NFL is to do it again. That's the hardest thing to do. You go out and have a season where you catch 8 picks, it's hard to come back the next year and catch 8 again. It is. You go out and have a year where you rush for 1,900 yards, it's hard to come back and run for 1,900 again. It's hard, man. It's hard. So will it be easy for the Lions to get back to the NFC Championship? No. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. It's hard to duplicate that. The expectations are higher now. They expect more. Other teams are going to be like, it's going to be hard. It's not impossible, but it's going to be hard. But at least you know that. And you just got to put the work in.
And I think the Lions will be ready to put the work in. I truly do believe that this was proof that the Lions belong here. That first half that they played, the Lions belong in the NFC Championship. They've got all these draft picks to use next year. They've got $60 million in salary cap space. They can free up even more with some of these extensions that are going to happen. I believe the Lions will be back. And so I think we have to remember, even though that it's so disappointing right now, ultimately this season was a success. And so do you have any final thoughts on this season for the Detroit Lions?
You know what? I think it was a success, Now I think I don't ever want to discredit or take away from winning. It's a hard game. It's a hard game. And I know, you look teams like Baltimore, they feel like, well, it wasn't a success, right? We didn't make it to the Super Bowl. There's a lot of other teams that didn't make it to the AFC Championship game either, right? And no, we don't do this for more victories, right? But we do this to compete at the highest of levels. And the higher you go, the harder the competition is. And we all understand that. And so for the Lions to really change the national opinion on a franchise, on a whole organization, that's huge. To be a part of history, it's huge. It's huge. Because even if they don't make it back to the NFC Championship for another 3 years, these guys will always be the ones that kind of started it from that standpoint, right? I feel like that. Their work won't go in vain. You're setting standards. You're setting standards. You're changing cultures. You have to do that. The people that come behind you, a lot of times they're going to reap the benefits from the seeds that you sowed, that you planted. That's how it happens. That's why you bring back the alumni and they celebrate, because they all had a part in building this thing to what it is right now. They all played a part. And so to see the Lions in this light, to see them have this moment, the city, to see the fans, man, just be so happy, proud. It's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. So, no, we're not playing in the Super Bowl, but you can hold your head up high, man. Be proud of that team. Be proud of the work that they put in. And just like a fan, we do it again next year. That's all you can say. Hey, we'll get them next year. And there'll be 31 other teams, fans saying the same exact thing. The loser of the Super Bowl is going to say, man, we got to get them next year. So don't hold your head down. Hold your head up high. Be proud that you wear that line on your head or your chest or wherever you wear that. Be proud of that. Be proud of the organization. Be proud of the guys. And thank the fans for a wonderful, wonderful season. It was dope.
I think that's the best way to put it. Thank you all for such a great season. Thank you to the players, the coaches, the management, the social media team, everyone at the Detroit Lions. And we'll get them next year. We will be back next year. We will be back this offseason. We will be back and we will be ready. But until then, we will see you next time.
Peace.
Awesome. And then Believe just wants us to do that little 2-minute thing, and then we'll get you out of here. Thanks, Courtney. Glover, unfortunately, the Lions season has come to an end, a very disappointing loss in the NFC Championship. But how would you describe the season? Because I would still call this a success, making the NFC Championship. How would you describe it?
Same way. I feel like it was a success. I feel like the momentum that they had coming off of last season, they took that same momentum into the offseason, had a phenomenal offseason, and it started out great this year, right? Opening day, you go on Arrowhead, get a win, and you end up in the NFC Championship game. So I think this season was a huge success. Just changed the organization nationally, changed the opinion of the team, had so many people rooting for this organization. So no, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but I definitely feel like this season will be looked at as a success.
And as you said on the Believe in Lions podcast, oftentimes you don't get to see the results of your success. This team right now is sowing the seeds. They are setting the standard. And this is what we want the standard to be for the Detroit Lions, right?
Right. And that's what we say, right? The standard is the standard. That's what it is. The expectations are going to be higher. The guys that are coming in, they're going to have to step up. They're going to have to be ready to go. They're going to have to understand that the standard is the standard. And now the fans have had a taste of what it feels like to be amongst the elite in the NFL. They've had a chance to taste it. We're in the NFC Championship, guys. We're the biggest story in the NFL almost, besides Taylor Swift. But when you taste that, when you get exposed to that, you want that. And as players, you got to want the same thing.
And I think the Lions absolutely proved that they belong here that first half against the 49ers. They belong in the NFC Championship. They belong at the top of the NFL. And we can't wait to see them back there next season. Back to you, Courtney.